Welcome to the Too Long Didn't Read Book Club, where we bring you the best bits of the best books and hopefully leave you wanting more. Tonight's book is Man Eater by Harold Schechter. Colorado, 1874. When a delirious Alferd Packer stumbled out of the freezing Rocky Mountains and into the Los Pinos Indian Affairs Office in the early spring of 1874, he was greeted as a pitiable, solitary survivor of a lost and presumed dead group of prospectors who had been hoping to capitalize on the Colorado gold rush. Alferd was carrying only a rifle and a fur trap, and seemed to be a man who had been driven to the boundaries of madness and back again more than once. He appeared disheveled, delirious, and in a state of relative disbelief that he was still alive. However, notably, he did not appear starved. Alferd was wrapped in a blanket and brought to the main building of the compound, which served as the intermediary between the whites of the area and the local tribes, as well as a precursor to the reservation system that would soon be imposed upon the Plains tribes of the area. Packer, according to varying accounts, asked for either food, whiskey, or both, and as a captive audience listened on and he sipped and chewed his way back to some semblance of consciousness, he recalled for them the tale of just how he had come to arrive in this makeshift refuge, seemingly in the middle of nowhere. He had been the guide in charge of a group of prospectors headed from Salt Lake City to the new gold strike in the largely already cashed-out Breckenridge territory. The group had separated from the main party with a more ambitious plan to get to the gold fields while the getting was still good. However, they became lost. Then they ran out of supplies. Then they started to argue. Then they got hungry. Then, as Packer would reveal to his rescuers, things got dark. Things got very dark. One man, the oldest, had died. He was then eaten out of necessity. Then, while Packer had gone to gather firewood, another member of his party had gone insane and killed everyone left at the camp. When Packer returned, the crazed prospector attacked him too. But, according to Packer's own account, he was able to fend off and then eventually kill the madman in self-defense. Then, for the next few months, while he huddled inside a makeshift lean-to, Alferd Packer stated that he lived off of the flesh of his dead companions, cutting small chunks off the bodies and boiling or broiling them to his taste. By these extreme and regrettable means, he was able to survive. In the history of the American West, even in the recent history of the American West at the time, this was not entirely unheard of. The Donner Party had occurred just over 20 years before, and was even then not the first or only case of its kind. The prevailing view of society, especially amongst the population in the vast and uninhabited spaces that constituted the North American continent west of the Mississippi, was that while cannibalism was of its own accord abhorrent and an abominable practice, cannibalism as a means of survival was quite another thing. It certainly was not laudable, but it was not entirely condemnable either, and nor was it an irrecoverable violation of the social contract. Thus, Packer was viewed as a character worthy of pity, not punishment. However, as time went on, Packer's story would begin to systematically unravel. The chronology of his events would often alter in his succeeding recollections, and the supposed logic behind the most crucial details of his story would fail to hold up to scrutiny upon further review. That spring, a group of suspicious local men decided that they would have Packer lead them back to the scene of the incident. Packer, although stricken by severe epilepsy and a number of other ailments, would accompany them back to the place where he had lived out the darkest days of his life. However, when the men's bodies were found, decomposing in a small clearing in the Rocky Mountains, the details of Packer's story started to rapidly unravel. The evidence and Packer's account were not adding up. Was Alferd Packer a trauma-stricken, neurologically impaired survivor, or a sociopathic, bloodthirsty cannibal? What would follow over the next decade would be several escapes from the law, multiple trials for murder and manslaughter, a merciless smear job from the 19th century press, and an as-of-yet unanswered question: was Alferd Packer a murderer? Tune in for part 2 of the Too Long Didn't Read Book Club's delving into Packer's arrest, his escape, his trials, and his ultimate fate. You can only get that here on the Too Long Didn't Read Book Club. I think I said that already, but whatever. We'll leave this in. So be sure and check us out on alldamnnight.com. Stories to stay up to. You don't want to miss out on it. It's a whole network of, all-inclusive infotainment, what we like to say. So whatever your interest is, we probably have stories about it on our website and also here on YouTube. So be sure to like, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you are, rang when we post new stuff. And we post pretty frequently, a couple times a week on this channel. So you don't want to miss out on it. And if you enjoy these topics and would like to get a more in-depth review of them, you can check out the podcast version where we go into a little bit more of a conversational format, not an hour long or so. On the Too Long Didn't Read Book Club, it's available on all your favorite podcast platforms, which is the hardest part of this whole script to say. So you could find us on iTunes and Stitcher and Spotify and all that good stuff, as well as streaming on alldamnnight.com and here on YouTube. And if I've forgotten anything, then I guess that's just going to have to wait till next time, because this is already too long and you don't have time to read it. So be sure to check us out here on every episode of the Too Long Didn't Read Book Club.